I think this movie just marked a new age of horror. I just got back from seeing Talk to Me, the directorial debut by Danny and Michael Philippou, who actually are pretty big YouTubers that run the Raka Raka channel. I actually did not know who they were before, even though I saw some of their videos in the past, but knowing that it was made by a YouTuber, I was like, oh, this is interesting because, YouTuber movies in the past haven't been amazing. So I didn't know what to expect seeing that it's from A24. I was like, A24 wouldn't put out the Smosh movie. So I was curious to see how YouTubers handled an A24 tier horror movie, and I loved it. Talk to Me basically centered around this group of teens that started messing around with this embalmed psychic's hand that when you held it and said talk to me, it would conjure up a ghost for you to talk to, kind of like a Ouija board but more intense. And then to go even farther, if you said I let you in, then it would possess your body and take over for a bit. And the whole thing was that if you went over 90 seconds, the ghost wouldn't want to leave. Obviously, when they state that, you're like, okay, so who's gonna go over 90 seconds? Someone's gonna go over 90 seconds. Yeah, it happens. And I won't get into spoilers for the first part of this, but it gets a little more intense and people go over 90 seconds. But I feel like this movie is sort of an interesting case because if you just hear that plot, it really sounds like something that could have been like a run-of-the-mill Blumhouse movie, or just like, one of these teen horror movies that would be entertaining but nothing to write home about. This definitely was not that. This could have been if it was handled by the wrong company, but I think being in A24's hands, they seem to really give the creative freedom to the directors, and I'm so glad they did, because you can kind of tell that this movie was made by YouTubers in like a really good way. I think this was the first time I've seen social media used in a movie and it not be cringy. The kids filming TikToks and stuff like that on their phones, but it's like integral to the story. It's not just like added in there to try to appeal to the kids. But some other things that like I thought was very YouTube-ish was like the sound design in this, because YouTube videos, you're used to having to keep people's attention spans and using very intense sound effects, unlike a lot of Hollywood stuff where like you use sound effects but not to this degree where it's like almost comically intense. Like there's one point in the movie where someone gets hit by a pillow, and I swear the impact sounded like someone was getting hit by a car, but it made it feel so intense. I was like, why is my heart racing from someone being in a pillow fight right now? I thought that was really cool. And overall, just the fact that YouTubers made this movie, it's really inspiring to see this happen and to make such a great, refreshing horror movie. It's really cool, especially after the sort of like run we've had with horror movies lately. Even A24 feels like it kind of fell into like a predictable pattern of these like smart horror movies, like I think it really went off the deep end with Men. I hated that movie. It felt like the epitome of what people make fun of A24 for, saying it's all artsy fartsy, like deep stuff, just like putting in a disturbing scene for nothing. After Men, I was like, oh man, is A24 going off the deep end? Are they just gonna go hard into these smart horrors? It was just going a little too far into it, where it was like, okay, we need something new. And this was that. This feels like a perfect sort of evolution, tying in both sides, where it was still like smart in not using like jump scares and stuff. I think you could say it as pre and post Hereditary. I think Hereditary was really influential for how directors try to scare you in horror movies, and I think you could see that a lot in this film. But other things I loved about this movie, the actors were phenomenal. It was all basically people that were unknown to me. I've never seen any of these actors, I don't think. It was all Australian actors, because the directors are Australian and they filmed it, pretty sure they filmed it all in Australia. I thought that was really cool. Something about them being Australian and then like just having this hand that could be anywhere in the world, it kind of made it feel like it could be happening anywhere, as opposed to all these movies taking place in the US. But it's also just cool to see these other actors, because Sophie Wilde, who played Mia, was amazing. I don't think this movie would have been the same without her. She gave like the best performance. Everyone else in the movie was perfect too, but Sophie Wilde was just great in this role. Other than that, one of my favorite things about this movie was the ending and how it ended, so I'm gonna get into some spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, come back. I don't think you should be spoiled, even though it's kind of predictable, but spoilers from here on out, okay? Okay, so leaving the movie, I was a bit confused on how the hand worked, because it was kind of clear at some point through the movie that it wasn't actually her mom she was talking to. Pretty clear after she convinced her to kill her dad, but it basically ends with her about to throw Riley into the street, and then at the last second, she actually just throws herself herself and gets ran over. I'm pretty sure it was a moment of like clarity where she was like, I don't want to hurt Riley. I think the entities would have had her kill herself either way, so at least she saved Riley. But then basically she walks all the way back to the hospital and no one can see or hear her, so it's pretty clear that she's dead. And basically all the lights start going off and then she's just in this abyss. She talks earlier in the movie about a nightmare she had where she can't see her reflection in the mirror, and she looks in the mirror and she can't see her reflection, which that was a really cool callback. It was just a really kind of like horrifying way to show someone realizing they're a ghost. With all the lights turning off, she sees that her dad and Riley are fine, but then she sees this light in the distance and she goes towards it, comes out, grabs this guy's hand, and it's people that I think they were in the US. They had like American accents, and it was people using the embalmed hand again, and this time she was the ghost. I thought that was an amazing ending. I thought it was like the best way you could have ended this movie. I'm pretty sure that that was another hand, unless like I don't know how ghosts perceive time, so that could have been like the same hand but at a completely different time. I don't know. That part doesn't really matter as much if there's another hand. I don't think they would make a sequel to this movie. Maybe they would, and then they'd talk about the hand more, but I feel like that might be pushing it. But yeah, I thought that was a great ending, but it sort of made me wonder how it worked, because it seemed like initially when they would talk to the spirits through the hand, it would be like an actual spirit. Like it seemed like she was actually talking to her mom for a second when Riley was possessed, before he started bashing his head over and over. But then it was like obviously not the actual spirits, unless the spirits turn evil for some reason, but I don't think they would. It seemed like the spirits were actually in there, but maybe being manipulated by an evil entity, because that just really made me wonder at the end, where it's like, okay, she is on the other side, she's the ghost being summoned now, so obviously there were real spirits and it wasn't just like a demon or something pretending to be these spirits. So I don't know if it was like a mixture of both. That was really the biggest question I had in this movie, because it definitely wasn't actually her mom, and it seemed like an entity trying to control these people with their emotions and trauma, sort of like the Smile entity in a way. That was really the only thing where I was a bit confused how it worked, where maybe the actual ghosts were there for a minute and then the entity took over. I don't know. Maybe it was like after 90 seconds then the demon steps in. I don't know. The movie was pretty simple in the fact that there's not like too much to think about afterwards, other than the emotions and just horror. There's not really much left up in the air other than what I just said, for me at least. If you guys have any theories or anything, leave them in the comments and let me know what you thought about the movie, because I loved it. Thanks for watching. Bye.